we living and benefiting from those converging technology? Did you ask ourselves and imagine a world where we are living off bionic chips, a world where we are living off nomomorphic computing structures living all around us, and a world where precision medicine is at the tips of the fingers of the common nomad across the globe? Imagine the same world with all the disruptions that are happening around and different clusters of technologies being multiplied across the map. Imagine the risks taking over rather than the innovation cycle. We live in a very, very critical world today where the clusters of developing resilient technology is not easy anymore. It's not easy and difficult, not because of the compound effect or the lack of science that we do. It's not easy because we didn't do enough to unlock the potentials of those technology. We rather live in a paradigm where the progress of humanity is mandated by the amount of applications that we do, our H indexes, or our profitable corporates that will reap the profit at the end of the day of every prototype that we put in the circle. Well, that's not what we do in the research that we carry across the map. In the research that we carry across in Emirates SEC and NYU Abu Dhabi, we're trying to tackle not just research for the sake of developing the state of academic progress of that research, but also we're trying to make sure that the type of convergence of technologies that we're discussing will take us to changing humanity for good. And prior to taking you there, I'd like to discuss with you what I know of as the contradief waves. I'm sure many of you have looked at towards these waves of innovation that exist across the map out there that tells you that since 1700s until today, we've been living across 6 different waves of technology. And Contradev have found within his research that those 6 waves of technology is being characterized by 2 or 3 main characteristics. The first characteristic is that they thrive on crisis, they thrive on war, and they thrive on disruption. The second characteristic is, at the end of this crisis, innovation tends to cluster around those waves to bring the economy away and spur economic progress, which is a hopeful thought. Amidst every crisis, there will be a growth of a new technology that would take us away from this crisis. So he identified the steam engine on the first kind of wave, and then he said electrification, not him actually, his fellow researchers and scientists who followed his framework of economic development said, because it came later when he was not anymore amidst us in life, and said the next cycle of innovation will be around electricity and semiconductors and whatnot. So across every wave, there has been a development, and today within the 6th wave, we're living through a development of over a portfolio of 25 breakthroughs mapping this wave. What does it tell us? It tells us like across every wave, we will have breakthroughs, not just in innovation, but breakthroughs that will define the total factor of productivity of economies and will push these economies away from stagnation point or innovation stagnation point that we are facing today when they are dominating the conversational cycle. Didn't you ask yourself why AI is the top conversational point today in the universe? And why quantum computing, when in reality emerging technologies today is about over 200 cluster of technologies mapping AI, computer sensing, new materials, and whatnot. So Contradev said that as we improve communication and cross-disciplinary conversations, we will have higher acceleration of breakthroughs, which means in today's cycle, we're facing over 25 conglomerate effect of breakthroughs of those cycles. But what are we doing to make sure that we're building technologies across map that will change reality across different sectors? I'll take you today through the reality that my researchers work across. So I work in the lab where my researchers will come up and say, why aren't we trying to brute force across the technology of self-driving cars? And why can't we just, try to change the navigational system structures across the board and maybe build an AI system that can attack those systems and at the same time build a better system that will prove the security kind of validation structures to be better for the next generation. And we always start with why not. And our why nots takes us across the next cycle. So our first why not took us to explore what would be the next structures for randomness that would be created in nature that we can use in cryptographic devices in order to discover and in order to break the boxes around building cryptographic elements. Those questions came from the fact that we're living in a post-quantum world where everybody don't want to even talk about quantum cryptography, but post-quantum crypto, because quantum crypto has been already broken, it seems, and RSA is not safe anymore, and elliptic curves has been broken. So what we decided to do within the lab is work with trying to build the next generation of primitives, randomness structures, that will fit into lightweight devices, and we were very helpful. Because for us, lightweight devices are all these kind of biochips that will be in your brains, the PCI network structure, nomomorphic computing, that will mimic the neuroscience that happens in your body. And we wanted to make sure that that type of technology, when it comes to your hand, it's safe, secure, and absolutely resilient. So being driven by this kind of ambition to bring in the best technology to market and to humanity, not in the form of scientific kind of contribution or a paper format, but in the form of a prototype, we said, yes, let's do it. And in the picture, you can see Hiba, who is my amazing researcher, who I sent to the desert of Sinai to try to experiment with photonic cells. Because we said, first, let's try memory-based computing. So we tried building memoristors, and from these memoristors, we tried to extract randomness. And once we extracted randomness from these memoristors, we realized it's good, close to true randomness, but not good enough, because they tend to break. So we went to the next cycle. We said, we need photonic structures, because photons are faster, and they're going to give us better type of technology. But I told Hiba, come on, we're just cryptographers. We don't need to be material scientists. She thought, but I'm a material scientist, and I want to bring that to the map. I was like, okay, let's do it. She went to the desert of Sinai and decided to test with all these kind of photonic structures that exist within the PV structures that is being set by American University in Cairo. And then she came to me and she said, oh my God, it's too hot. I can't take it, but it worked. It worked, and we built this kind of new randomness part of photonic structures. And while Hiba was away, I was talking to one of my research colleagues, and I was telling him, Hiba is suffering in that desert. I don't know how much she will survive. We need to save Hiba. And he said, you know what? I work on biosynthesis material, and we have so much randomness in biocells. What can you do with that? I was like, what? I sent her all the way to the desert of Sinai, and you have the solution all over the place in here? And we came back. We tried to extract the randomness that exists in our biocells. And imagine what type of prototypes we came up with. The minute we told Hiba that, she said, like, imagine just touching your phone, and that by the power of touching your phone, you can generate randomness that would drive all type of security that you will build within these kind of PCI structure, brain cognitive interfaces that you build in your devices. I said, Hiba, this is actually the dream, but we don't have the biosensors. Can we try to build those biosensors? She said, well, they don't exist in market. They don't exist in the science. And we tried to ask ourselves, why don't they exist in science? And why don't they exist in the market? Because unfortunately, throughout history, our contradive waves of innovation has been stagnating around being there to progressively follow the previous paper, the previous reference, the previous work that has been done, rather than trying to tackle what's kind of new in the industry that we're trying to develop. And this is why we are here trying to build a different interdisciplinary lens that would take us to build new technologies with not just a quantum, but what we call alternative computing structure, energy structure, providing new cryptographic lightweight structures for new domains. And not just that. So the next conversational point took us to conversation with Dr. Asrar. So Dr. Asrar works with epidemiology for children, and he have a beautiful set of data, genetics data modeling. And he said, Hoda, I don't know what to do with this. We need to establish a way of understanding public health data records in order to understand the genomic tendencies and the markers of this disease. I said, let's try to put it into a different AI structure model and try to build the new kind of map of establishing genomic structures around biological systems. And he said, yeah, let's do it. And once we've done that, we managed to map a populational cycle on different diseases. 3 types of diseases, starting with COVID, starting with cancer, and starting with, 2 or 3 types of diseases pertaining to specific population that I cannot, disclose for confidentiality at the moment. But once we've done that, we got to this kind of golden cycle to be ruined by my other researchers. Let me tell you about Jorge. Jorge started as an AI scientist that we have corrupted in our lab, and then he tried to start doing some type of attacks on our genomic sequencing structures. And he succeeded. We told him, Jorge, there is no way that you will manage to do any types of attacks on those systems because they're used in practice. They're quite reliable. They're AI-based. He said, come on, let's try. Let's try to do a few tweaks. Our false positive, false negatives might fall off the map. And it actually worked. So the amount of possibilities that we have in our lab when you put all of these kind of interdisciplinary scientists in order to bring in a value led us to build frameworks of building resiliency and reliability around these genomic structures that we built at the end of the day. Not just that, they also triggered conversation within our groups of what defines bottlenecks of research that we're having. Our first bottleneck was energy. Our randomness is based on energy. Energy is based on specific elements, right? Energy comes from lithium-based sources most of the time when we're working on them. But that type of randomness that comes from lithium-based sources is not enough for us in cryptographic structures. We need better level of randomness. So we experimented with ion-based and phosphorus-based energy sources, and they give us better type of randomness. I was like, why then not the mass industry going for sodium-based or phosphorus-based kind of energy sources, and why it's only lithium? If those type of energy sources will take us to a smaller in density kind of instrumentation that we can use across the mass. Imagine the mass of the population around being able to use secure bio devices that they are using every day. That's not a possibility for us now, because as a security practitioner in the lab, when you want to add, or a scientist in the lab, when you want to add security to any kind of bio device, we tell you no. Bio devices can withstand a fluctuation of 1 degree of temperature, and unfortunately, none of our security that we can put into those devices will be in the margins of 1 degree of temperature fluctuations. So we end up diluting the security norms that we build for those devices. Not anymore if we change the energy generation structures of those devices, and not anymore if we as well change the material that we're building these devices for. This is why Hiba went across the map to say, why are we only restricted by silicon? Why aren't we using graphene-based chips? Or why aren't we experimenting around MSO2 kind of structures? And this is what we ended up trying. And guess what? We ended up with 100% better conductivity across the different cycles that we built. And we ended up with better technologies across the map. So moving away from lithium, moving away from the current cycles of innovation, have motivated our team to look towards the new technologies that we will bring to cycle. And those new technologies, as per the definition of ContraDev, will build the new economies. Imagine that we're in the cycle of AI, in the cycle of quantum computing, we're overlooking more than 200 critical technologies that we can as well bring to market and bring to an equivalently, absolutely new economic growth. Thank you so much. I would like you to leave the room with a teaser that next time you start building something, maybe you start destroying it first to build it from scratch. Thank you.